Hey Luke, have I got some news for you?
What?
You know famous sex pest Kevin Spacey?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh dear, you know him all too well.
I know, I do.
Yeah, sorry to remind you of your trauma. But more importantly, did you know he's decided to make a radical shift in career trajectory to working on movies now,
Wow, good for
rather
him.
than just making his money off of touching kids? So, according to Variety, Kevin Spacey books first movie after winning $40 million sexual battery lawsuit. So good for him.
Yeah, I've got some more gay news, by the way.
Oh yeah, because that's what he's famous for, being gay.
Yeah, being gay, that's what everyone knows about him. It's why he committed all those crimes. Now, Disney's first gay... Disney's first film with an openly gay protagonist has bombed at the US box office.
Oh, you know what? My fiance went to see this.
Oh wow, good for her. She's supporting the gays, but no one else was because Strange World.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, I heard about this story today. It's gonna lose like $100 million for Disney. I had no idea what this movie was, and of course, we kind of follow movies and keep up
Yeah.
with movie news. Me probably more so. I had no idea about this movie. Strange
Yeah, well, I
World.
didn't know about it because, yeah, my fiance was like, "Oh, we're going to see a Disney film," and I was like, "Oh, really? What is it?" And she was like, "Strange World," and I was like, "What?" And then about halfway through, I guess, watching the film, because it's good to text in a movie theater. She said, "This film's very gay."
Yeah, clearly she's good with her analysis, good
Yeah,
insights.
it's yeah, that's the type of top tier analysis we try and provide on this show too.
Yeah. Maybe your fiance should come on with those insights, honestly. But that's the thing. There was a viral tweet which I'd never heard of this movie and not been marketed, never seen a trailer or anything. And the same for me. Like, it seems like Disney may have put this movie out there so that anyone who ever complains about lack of gay representation in Disney movies, they can point to this and go, say, well, look at that, performed really badly at the box office.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't have to do any of that gay shit, and we can keep
Weaponized incompetence.
we can keep donating to those Republican politicians in Florida who are anti-gay, who give us a good tax status. So yeah, good for Disney. Good tactics there.
Yeah, I tell you what, with all of the cynicism, that's the real thing that's strange about this world. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past, we give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the release of the film Good Will Hunting. I believe I'm right in saying that's the only reason we're talking about this film. There's not like some Good Will Hunting 2, Hunt Harder coming out. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Good Will Hunting?
Sure thing, Michael. So, Good Will Hunting is a 1997 American psychological drama film directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. The film stars Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver, which is a great name, I have to say, Minnie Driver. The movie was released on December the 5th, 1997. So you're right, Michael, about 25 years ago. Can you guess what the budget was?
Oh yeah. Well, it seems quite independent, right? But then, I mean, obviously it had some budget because, Robin Williams isn't nobody. 10 million.
Bang on.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is great. I mean, again, it's a nice round number, so I thought there's a chance you would get it, and there you go. Well done. What about the box office now?
Well, this film was a big success, or, at least it's well known now. I think, I kind of felt this film must have been a pretty big success. Am I going to go to, I want to say 200 million.
Again, slightly less, 225.
Okay.
Yeah, so decent guess.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, did you like this movie?
Yeah, I thought this film was good. It was very very watchable, which sounds like a measured thing, but it was kind of like I could just watch it like so easily because it's just like the conversations are good. It's dynamic, but obviously I think I would say that in my view there were maybe a few missed opportunities where I think the film could have explored things a little bit more. But I think as far as like just I guess entertaining drama, it was good.
So did I like this? I kind of liked it. If we were to compare it to Catch Me If You Can, which is of course what we did last week, I would say that of course you've got another movie which centers around a character and like a father figure.
Yeah. Also, in both cases, they're pretty smart. I mean, some might say wicked smart in both cases.
Yeah, wicked smart. Do you want to do an impression?
Wicked smart. My boy's wicked smart.
I think that this movie, it's like you said, it's got some great like emotional moments. It's got some great dialogue. It really is like a great like movie in terms of what I think the average person would class as a great movie.
Yeah, I feel like so somebody who like thinks that Shawshank Redemption is like their favorite film would probably also really like this film. I don't think this film is anything like as good. I think Shawshank Redemption is still better, but I feel like it's kind of appeals to the same thing of like emotion and like, you know, big moments.
No, yeah, it is a movie for people who, yeah, again, got some great hashtag movie moments, you know. This is the type of movie, you know how like movie companies, so who was this by? Miramax.
Yes.
Miramax probably have a YouTube channel, and they probably, you know, they post clips, I imagine, of a lot of their movies.
Yeah.
And this one, obviously, I imagine they posted clips of it, and I imagine those clips do very well on YouTube. A lot of great movie moments, a lot of, again, great dialogue, very emotional scenes, you know, great performances. You know, at its core, it's not that complicated, and I don't think as, of course, Will Hunting goes on his character arc, and it's a very simple character arc, really. And we can discuss how he, you know, how he turns the corner, if you will, because it's, you know, it's an arc, how he gets to the final stage, you know, the finish line of his character arc at the end. But yeah, it's not as, comparing it again to Catch Me If You Can, which I started off doing. I don't think it's as clever as Catch Me If You Can, but certainly, yeah, it is more emotional. And you know, that movie Catch Me If You Can, I guess, is more lighthearted, really. So you know,
this has more melodrama.
Yeah, they are going for two different things, and that's what I guess, you know, people like if you give strong performances and, you know, again, good dialogue, good performances, a relatively simple movie. And people will really like it. And again, compare it to The Shawshank Redemption, I think, yes, definitely one of those just great movies which your average moviegoer really likes. You know, a classic, yes.
It's also interesting that both Robin Williams and Tom Hanks are like guys that just everybody likes in films. You know, like it's just like if you see a movie with Tom Hanks in it, you're like, oh, I love Tom Hanks. You see a movie with Robin Williams, oh, I love him. He's just so cozy.
Yes, yeah, no, and obviously, again, it's
Catch Me If You Can wins because Tom Hanks didn't kill himself.
Well, that's the thing. Catch Me If You Can. It's weird how this FBI agent becomes a father figure to the guy he's trying to catch.
So this is a bit more predictable.
Yes, again, it's very predictable. Oh, like the therapist who has the same life experiences as this damaged kid becomes his father figure. Oh wow, how crazy, eh?
This movie is racist because it implies you can only relate to people who come from the same place as you.
Okay, that's great. So how many nitpicks do you have?
I have one lit pick, but no nitpicks.
Okay, I have a nitpick, which is as follows. Matt Damon has a black eye after, you know, he does the second math problem. Then he doesn't on the train home.
Oh, so it very quickly disappears. Yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to I can't really remember that scene, but I'm just going to assume that you're right.
He gets into a fight.
Yes.
And then, obviously, he is still working at his janitor job, and he's got a black eye. You can tell he's been, you know, punched. He's got himself into a scrap. And then, then he, of course, runs away after the professor confronts him. And then on the train ride home, he hasn't got the black eye again. I think what they did filming those train rides when he's on the train, they just filmed a bunch at the same time and got him to dress up in different clothes. That's what I
that would make sense. Yeah,
so it's like they didn't have the right makeup.
So they didn't have to blow the budget on multiple train tickets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, those things are expensive.
Those things really. I mean, they're also pretty expensive in the UK sometimes.
Oh yeah,
train tickets, man. Goodness me.
Doubt. I mean, it's because it's private railways.
Yes, exactly.
That's the issue.
It would have been cheaper for them to fly to a country with a nationalised rail service just to film those shots. Anyway, my lit pick is that we had somebody at university. I guess I can say his name was Scott, and he also came from a kind of rough area.
I was going to mention Scott later.
Ah, okay. And he was studying maths, and he said this was his favorite film.
Do you know
but
why?
The funny thing is, well, I assume that. Well, I just think it's, you know, perhaps because his life somewhat parallels the protagonist in that both of them do maths and come from like rough backgrounds. The funny thing is though that Scott got a 2-2.
Okay, right. You didn't need to say that.
So I roast him. But you know, I'm just saying like he didn't quite achieve the same level of genius, which I find funny.
Yes, all I was going to say, I was going to allude to the fact that this guy, Scott, who of course is a good friend of ours.
Very good friend.
No, very good guy, you know, but obviously he said this was his favourite movie, which is fine. But he said, you know, he related to the main character, which again is kind of funny considering the difference in, you know, in difference in knowledge, shall we say, in certain aspects. But you know what? Hey, you know, it's not. He never compared himself directly. It's
No,
just
yeah.
it's just funny to see the comparison. That's all. But I get what he was saying. Anyway, so let's then get into the plot development, Michael. Because of course this is a very interesting movie, not just because of the movie itself, but where it came from. Because I don't know if the story is famous or not. I'm not sure to like the average person, but certainly the story is funny because it depicts a time which doesn't exist anymore. In terms of getting movies made.
It started with somebody wrote a comic book about this guy, and then people realized they can make billions of dollars off of it because it was an established franchise, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, he is kind of like a superhero in the fact that he's got these powers that he's hiding,
Yeah, then someone was like, "Oh, let's make the Good Will Hunting cinematic universe."
Yes. So Matt Damon started writing the film as a final assignment for a playwriting class he was taking at Harvard University. Imagine if every college kid, got their movie made, which was a final assignment for a playwriting class
You would get some great movies.
in their college. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think you genuinely would.
Yeah.
But of course, again, we're so far away from that world. You'd get some bad ones, obviously. Anyway, instead of writing a one-act play, Damon submitted a 40-page script, because of course he did. Damon said the only scene from the script that survived, which apparently survived verbatim, was when Will Hunting meets his therapist Sean Maguire for the first time. Damon asked Ben Affleck to develop the screenplay together. They completed the script in 1994. At first, it was written as a thriller about a young man in the rough and tumble streets of South Boston who possesses a superior intelligence and is targeted by the government with heavy-handed recruitment, which they have a bit of that in there, don't they?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then it was made into a psychological drama, obviously. Castle Rock president Rob Reiner urged them to drop the thriller aspect of the story and to focus on the relationship between Will and his therapist, which, again, was the right move, obviously. Terrence Malick told Affleck and Damon over dinner that the film ought to end with Will's decision to follow his girlfriend Skylar to California, not them leaving together.
To me, it seems like a wash, does it really matter either way? I mean, I suppose, obviously, by having, in Terrence Malick's way, you have the, drama of her leaving him.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the idea of, hey, he's taking a shot. It's more of a risk, that he's just driving across country on his own.
Yeah. I don't know why they would listen to Terrence Malick, because he doesn't make movies anything like this. All his movies are, really weird art films.
Yeah, but I think he's right on this one.
No,
It's better for him to drive cross country, because of course one of the themes is, you got to give a life a shot. You can't just be scared,
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So, hey, it's more of a risk if you drive cross country, because she could easily say no, obviously.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. If they leave together, there's the security of knowing they're already in it together.
Yeah, it's much less of a risk. So there you go. I think it works better. So well done to Terrence Malick on that one. Anyway, Affleck and Damon proposed to act in the lead roles, but many studio executives said they wanted, guess who, Michael? Who do they want?
Is it someone who's pretty big? I don't know, I'm thinking Brad Pitt.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
and then the other guy, Johnny Depp?
No,
Oh,
even
okay, thinking,
famouser.
Even more famous in Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, that's the other
Yeah,
one.
of course, yeah, Brad
Yeah.
yeah.
I just like being a studio executive in the late 90s. What if we put Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio in this? I think
who do
that
I think
would
they
be
are?
good.
Tarantino?
Yeah, I know. But obviously they aren't from Boston, so that wouldn't work. I think that's the reason this movie, of course, is a cult favourite in Boston. It's because Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are from Boston. So
it's what Rocky is to Philadelphia. Oh wait,
Yeah.
hold a minute. Where does Sylvester Stallone come from?
I think
actually don't know.
it comes from New York,
Okay, yeah, never mind. Okay, I retract my comparison.
Kevin Smith was working with Affleck on Mallrats in the
Yes.
meantime. You know that, do you? That's
Well,
good.
I know. So for some reason, I don't know why. I know more than I should about Kevin Smith. I don't know why. It's just one of those.
What a phrase.
I know, yeah.
He was working with Affleck on Mallrats and both of them on Chasing Amy. So Castle Rock put the script in turnaround and gave Damon and Affleck 30 days to find another buyer for the script who would reimburse Castle Rock the money paid. Otherwise, the script reverted to the studio and Damon and Affleck would be out. So yeah, basically, I think Castle Rock wanted them out of the lead roles, and when they said no, Castle Rock put it in turnaround, basically. That's how I see it. All the studios that were involved in the original bidding war for the screenplay now turned the pair down. As a last resort, Affleck passed the script to his Chasing Amy director, Kevin Smith, who read it and promised to walk the script directly into Harvey Weinstein's office at Miramax.
Yes, good stuff.
Harvey Weinstein, the hero.
Yeah, saves the day.
Saves the day once more, yes. Weinstein read the script and loved it and paid Castle Rock their due, while also agreeing to let Damon and Affleck star in the film. Weinstein asked that a few scenes be removed, including an out-of-place mid-script oral sex scene that Damon and Affleck added to trick executives who were not looking closely. And clearly
Harvey Weinstein is always looking out.
No, that's what Harvey Weinstein has produced so many good movies. Obviously, Tarantino stuff, this one as well. You know, I don't want to say like.
You don't want to say he's a good man who deserves to be forgiven for all his crimes.
I don't want to say all his sexual crimes were worth it. So we could have him in a position of power, so he could produce these great movies. But
you do want to heavily imply it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm just implying it. I'm not saying.
Yes, I think that's good. Yeah, that's good.
So that is the difference there. And of course, this won the Best Picture screenplay at the Oscars.
Which was like his thing. I mean, when did he start doing that? Was that his whole
Weinstein.
Trying to just going down let's make good movies so they win at the Oscars.
I think he really started doing that in the 90s, this would be one of his successes from that era. Obviously, again, it's just a crazy story how these two kids who were not famous at all managed to produce this movie that went on to win, an Oscar for Best Screenplay. It's an award but it's so impressive.
So they won for their singular contribution.
Yeah, they won for their own talent, and that is, again, can you imagine something like that happening today? I don't think so. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the Family Guy cutaway scene where it implies that Matt Damon was the only one who had anything to do with writing the script, and Ben Affleck did nothing?
Yes.
I just remember when Matt Damon's like, pitch me a line right now, and then Ben Affleck just farts. I don't even know, I don't know what that's supposed to be based on, if it's just something Family Guy made up.
No, it's their I think it's Ben Affleck's reputation, because Matt Damon really did push himself as an actor. He appeared in The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah, whereas Ben Affleck seems kind of lazy.
Ben Affleck appeared in that 2003 movie with Jennifer Lopez, one of the worst movies of all time. What was it called?
Oh, Giggly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So Matt Damon was doing Jason Bourne, and Ben Affleck was doing Giggly.
Yeah. Ben Affleck, he does just look like a lazy man.
Yeah, they also had that joke in Family Guy with Ben Affleck playing Henry VIII. It's like, oh shit, I got to do Henry VIII in 30 minutes. Hello.
Got it.
Got it, yeah. So clearly he had this reputation, and Matt Damon was the more serious one, the more intellectual one. Who knows how true that was, but certainly judging by how their careers went, it's not that surprising that reputation would be true if it were true. But anyway, so let's get into the plot now, Michael. So, Will Hunting has a genius-level IQ, but chooses to work as a janitor at MIT. When he solves a difficult graduate-level math problem, his talents are discovered by Professor Gerald Lambeau. Who decides to help the misguided youth reach his potential. When Will is arrested for attacking a police officer, Professor Lambeau makes a deal to get leniency for him if he will get treatment from a therapist. Honestly, I thought that said the rapist then.
Yes. I know you'll appreciate this, perhaps a cross between an analyst and a therapist, an analrapist, if you will.
Yes. Sean Maguire, who was, of course, played by Robin Williams. And, childhood trauma basically affecting this kid's ability to fulfill his potential, affecting his ability to just, open up and be, in intimate relationships and get out of his comfort zone because of, fear of rejection, just fear of everything, really. He's scared of the outside world, because the people who were meant to treat him right were very
less than capable of answering that calling.
Yes, very abusive towards him. So naturally, therefore, he only sticks with what he knows, because
he needs his safety net.
Yes, because he's scared shitless. Again,
he's dazed and confused.
It's a very simple character arc, and I guess the gimmick, as it were, is he's a genius. Which doesn't need to be in the movie so much. I guess, it helps with the plot.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how kind of, not irrelevant, but I guess coincidental, him being a genius sort of is. You'd have to change the plot a bit if he wasn't, but not as much as you might think.
Yeah, it makes it inherently interesting that he is a genius. That's the thing.
Yes.
It creates that intrigue, which we'll get into with him being a janitor. But yeah, anyway. So I've taken this from Rotten Tomatoes. The film follows a predictable narrative arc. Yes, definitely. But Good Will Hunting adds enough quirks to the journey and is loaded with enough powerful performances that it remains an entertaining, emotionally rich drama.
Yeah, that's actually pretty well done, Rotten Tomatoes. Who's in charge of writing those summaries?
I don't know.
Because they're good at their job a lot of the time.
Yeah, but it's true. It is predictable, which is why I don't find it as interesting as, say, the movie we did last week and other movies. But yeah, it's got a lot of powerful performances. It's emotionally rich, that people really love. Like, as you said, the Shawshank Redemption. What are there any other movies we can put in that category?
You know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of Forrest Gump, and then that's also. But the thing about with that is it's not exactly predictable, but like it's pretty, feel good kind of. Not really too complicated.
Anyway, so let's get into the movie now. So 20-year-old Will Hunting of South Boston is a natural genius who was self-taught and has been paroled from jail. He works as a janitor at MIT and spent his free time drinking with his stepbrother Chucky and his friends Billy and Morgan. When Professor Gerald Lambeau posts a difficult combinational mathematics problem on a blackboard as a challenge for his graduate students, Will solves the problem anonymously, stunning both the students and Lambeau. So this is an intriguing premise for a movie, isn't it? A genius who works as a janitor who solves math problems at MIT that the actual students there can't. That is a fun premise, is it? And we know we talked about how he doesn't need to be a genius, but part of this movie, what makes it fun is that it is certainly this, I guess, I won't call it a gimmick because that's too harsh, this plot device at the start, which is, again, it's a really fun, neat idea.
Yeah, it's a good way also of, I guess, justifying why any particular attention would be paid to him. Because it's like, obviously, if he wasn't a genius, then it would be like, you could write a story about some guy who goes to therapy, but it would just be about some guy who goes to therapy. But yeah, this way it's like, you need to go to therapy because you've got something special, which, definitely adds something to it in terms of intrigue.
I wonder, was Dylan inspired by this character? Because we've already talked about...
Yes, he does. I was thinking about that. Yeah, he obviously works as a janitor.
Yes, and he tries to solve the blackboard problems that are put on at the youth centre,
The thing is, he gets confused, so he just tries to solve the graffiti. So he's just sat there like trying to work out the equation for the dick pic. Cock and balls.
Yeah. I was going to say the equations on the youth centre blackboards are a lot easier than at MIT. So he thinks he's a genius because he can solve like 6 times 8. But obviously,
Oh my god, I actually think that would be like kind of a funny like Key and Peele sketch where it's like Good Will Hunting, but he's like a janitor at like a primary school. So like a kid like writes and it like plays the Good Will Hunting music because he's like solving it.
No, I think it's a good idea. But why Key and Peele?
I don't know why. Mostly because I feel like I associate them more so than anyone else with like movie parody sketches. I think it's because they've done like a Usual Suspects parody.
I was thinking SNL.
SNL makes sense.
But that would be a good sketch. You're right. There we go. We've come up with something. We're the
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck of Good Will Hunting sketches.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. The movie does a good job at raising intrigue. And, why is this guy just a janitor? How is he this smart? And, it does a good job of establishing the contrasting worlds to, the streets of Boston, them going to Little League games, and then the MIT world with, this witty professor and the champagne, which is an easy thing to accomplish, I will say, this contrast. But I think the movie obviously still does a fine job at it, So we get an early insight into the character then of Will Hunting. A little clue into this guy's mind when we see him beating up that guy who used to beat him up in kindergarten. And do you remember, he does it really aggressively, right?
Yes, so, he's like really going at it.
Yeah, so he clearly has some repressed anger issues, and it isn't the most subtle thing ever, but it's still subtle enough. So yeah, Professor Lambeau posts an even more difficult problem. He later catches Will writing the solution on the blackboard late at night, but initially thinks Will is vandalizing it and chases him off. I like that. How the professor assumes he's destroying the blackboard because he's a janitor, and then when Will Hunting says "fuck you," he says, "Well, aren't you a clever boy?" A nice way to reveal to him that that is the janitor. It's so much better than if Will Hunting would just like to tell him, or someone else tells him on his behalf. It's a great way to reveal it, I think.
Yeah. Because then obviously you get to see this other character kind of like notice it and come to the like it feels like more of like a discovery.
Yeah, it feels genuine.
Just told it. Yeah.
That's a good word. A good discovery. So at a bar, Will meets Skylar, a British woman about to graduate from Harvard. So this again, this is a famous scene.
Yes.
Again, one of those famous scenes which people remember. It's why people really like this movie. So, firstly, Ben Affleck tries to hit on her, and this blonde-haired guy breaks it up for no reason really. I guess he's jealous, but again, it's not like he was talking to Skylar or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is a bit weird.
Yeah, but again, that's the point. He's like this prick, so they want to up the prickness to the highest level it can be. So therefore, it's not like he was talking to these girls. So he has to butt in. And anyway, of course, he tries to own Affleck with his intelligence, and then he gets put down by Will Hunting, who owns him about what is it, colonial economies, whether they were agricultural or not.
Yes.
Yeah, some shit like that. Yes, all very good. And again, this must be all I can think of is this must be a fantasy for these like Boston like street guys who see probably Harvard guys like walking around thinking they own the place.
Yeah.
I often wonder what the dynamic must be like between Harvard people and like regular Boston people. I guess maybe they are segregated a lot, so they don't really come into contact.
Yes.
It
is really funny that Boston randomly has like, it would be like if like Cambridge and Oxford were instead just I don't know, Bradford.
Wow.
I can think of a scummier place. I'm sorry, Bradford. Glasgow. There we go. Like,
I guess Glasgow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Imagine like Cambridge, like Oxford students, but in Glasgow. That would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Where's St Andrews is in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah. So I think Edinburgh is obviously like it's the England of Scotland.
That's a great way to phrase it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to say about this thing, and this is just another example of me kind of slightly lamenting that this film isn't a completely different film, which is of course always a good thing to do and something I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just thinking like obviously they kind of touch on this thing about like Matt Damon has like a line about what's the point in going to university when you can just like learn stuff from having a library card, and like I was thinking to myself like, oh, that's kind of like an interesting.
He's 100% right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was thinking that exactly. I was like, that's kind of an interesting thing. Like the movie could have had a bit more of a like thematic exploration of, I guess, like or come to some kind of conclusion about like what is the value of education compared to like self-learning and things like that.
The value of the education is the degree. That's the thing.
Yes, yeah, which could have again been an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's what I settle on. Well, yeah, I get, but the movie is not like that. It's
which is fine. Yeah.
Why? I went to university. I spent a lot of money to go there. What do I have to show for it? Well, you know what? I've got this degree, and that means something. That's the thing. I work with people who haven't been to university.
Yes.
And they like for them, it's significant that there's a difference between me going and them not. Like
yeah. Well, I like to imagine it. You walk up to them and you like say stuff about, and then they like start quoting like Shakespeare or whatever at you.
No.
Like, hey, I've got a library card too. I don't know why I give them that accent.
But the thing is, you just become like, you think of your time in university, and it's like, well, I mean, some people have different experiences, but it wasn't that. I don't think it was the best value for money, to be honest.
Yeah. Like the thing is, in terms of like education, it definitely isn't. There we go. That's that. But yeah, like I say, I just thought. I mean, it's just an example of how, obviously, because generally speaking, what elevates films, as we've of course covered before, is like themes and things like that. And this film doesn't really have. I mean, it has like very obvious themes, like basically just themes insofar as they facilitate the character arc.
Yeah, exactly. It's just about the character arc, and again, like we said, that's fine. I like that. We did a movie last week, which was just that, which. I gave a 9 out of 10, but it's again the character arc ain't that complicated, which again is the issue. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. Yes, because we're talking about obviously what's the difference between is there a real clash between the smartest people in the world and the blue collar people? Like how authentic is that? I mean, the professor gets called an asshole by the janitors.
That is true.
And
yeah,
that's the thing. The janitor people seemed openly hostile to him. I was like, I don't know if that would actually be the...
Well, Mr. Learning Man in your books.
Exactly. I was like, is it actually like that? Because, I don't know, he didn't seem that rude, but whatever. Maybe that is how it's like in Boston in particular.
Well, I feel like this film is kind of a thematic accompaniment to the episode of The In-Betweeners when Will gets work experience at a garage.
Oh, yes.
That's my comparison. And he gets thrown in the lake.
Yeah, but the difference, of course, Will is a dick. He is a dick.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that's the difference. Yeah. Anyway, I guess, this illustrates the dynamic, I think, a bit between, this scene, what I mean. Because the guy seems like a very arrogant, obnoxious, like, fraud, and I guess a lot of, Boston people who don't go to university feel that way. I would hate if people thought of us like that, Michael. When we went to
Yeah.
university with the regular,
Yeah.
what's a rude word that I'm being sarcastic with?
Plebs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, you hope the plebs don't think. Especially, it would be very awkward if I made fun of somebody from a working class rough background for having only got a 2-2. That would be a very bad look for me.
Yes, it would. It would be an awful look. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Let's just hope. I can't remember, but let's just hope I didn't do that.
Yeah. Of course, you know him though, so it's different.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so it does feel a bit heavy-handed, this scene though, and I think it has become a famous scene. Him trying to embarrass Ben Affleck and getting the tables turned. I guess people hate this.
People
guy.
like seeing people get smacked down.
Yeah,
You know
people
what's the
who are
funniest-
arrogant. Yeah.
The funniest thing about this scene is that I remember seeing one time somebody basically try and do this scene themselves in a conversation. I'm not going to get into the context of why I saw this, but of course the very funny thing about that is the whole scene is about how this guy just quotes people's opinions about understanding them or having any intelligent thoughts of his own. So it's very ironic for somebody to copy this scene.
Yes.
And steal this scene for themselves.
Yes. Yeah, I know exactly. That would be very ironic.
Yes.
Anyway, we get the apples line, which is iconic as well. But I thought it when I first saw this movie, and I still think it now. It would have been better if they had talked somewhat about apples while Will Hunting was owning him.
Yeah.
Then it would have been.
Can I be honest? I don't know what the phrase "How do you like them apples?" It just means so it's just an expression to mean how do you like that, right?
Yeah, I've heard
yeah.
I've heard the expression before. I think it's not that uncommon,
Yeah, okay. I just see it's weird because maybe I don't think I'd ever heard it divorced from the context of this film, but which is I can accept it is actually a thing people say.
Anytime anybody references, anytime somebody says that line, you have to think of this scene because of the line as it's delivered in this movie because it's so iconic. But yeah, again, I would like it if they mentioned apples in the previous scene, so it was a payoff.
In the Futurama episode that is a parody of Good Will Hunting, there's actually a scene where, basically it's about how Professor Farnsworth creates a super smart monkey, and Fry is like, hey, you want a banana? In a kind of a mocking way. And then basically they start competing over the same girl because they're going to college together. And the monkey says, you like bananas? I got her number. How do you like them bananas? So there you go. That's actually better writing than because it was reincorporation.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was no reincorporation with this, which is a shame because that would have worked better. But anyway.
Yeah. What's interesting actually about you saying that is when I first, because I knew about that line independent of having watched this film, and I always thought in a way that rivalry over the girl would be a more significant part of the film rather than it just being random line out there.
That guy is just a very one-dimensional character.
Yes.
His job is to get owned by Will Hunting. And
yes.
That's it. So anyway, Will is arrested after he attacks a police officer, and of course, Lambeau sits in on his court appearance and watches Will defend himself. He arranges for him to avoid jail time if he agrees to study maths under Lambeau's supervision and participates in psychotherapy sessions. I don't know why it's psycho.
Yeah, what other kind of therapy is that?
I know. I love the scene of him, citing the Constitution to defend himself.
Yes.
Again, it's very clear. From these little bits, again, it's the old show don't tell. It's very, of course, the telling is later when they're in therapy. But the showing is just, this kid, he's just he wants to use his, tools that he has because he doesn't, want to have a better life or doesn't believe he can have a better life. But of course, he doesn't want to drown also. So he just wants to stay where he is. Yeah, so he's fine with using these tools to make sure he doesn't fall lower, I guess, which would be to prison, obviously.
Yes.
And also,
he's
deal...
treading water.
Yes. The deal the professor strikes, I think it is realistic. I would have liked to see the scene where he makes it with the judge, but this deal feels like a very movie thing. It feels like just on the edge of believability, which I think is the case for a lot of this movie. It's this professor from MIT manages to convince the judge to. Of course, this kid's got an incredible rap sheet, as the judge said in while he was sentencing him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it believable that he would get him out of this situation?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I definitely agree with you that it is it's an incredibly movie thing, having a situation where characters basically their backs up against the wall and they're given a way out, but it has very strict stipulations attached to it that's basically going to determine them having to engage with the plot. That does seem like a thing which I feel I don't know, I feel like it must exist elsewhere. I guess it's pretty much what happens when a character's in a bad financial situation and they have to do something financially. But yeah, regarding its believability, I mean, I do think it is true. I mean, I suppose actually it's kind of similar to how in Catch Me If You Can, obviously he ends up working at the catching the fraud. Obviously it's slightly different because that's after like an entire film, but like it does show, I guess, at least there's probably precedent for this idea of like if somebody has unique talents that can be put to kind of good use, that they might get treated somewhat,
Yes.
get preferential treatment by the
Yes.
justice system.
Yes, I guess so, yes. Anyway, so Will agrees to the deal, but treats his therapists with mockery. In desperation, Lambeau calls on Dr. Sean Maguire, his college roommate who now teaches psychology at Bunker Hill Community College. Remember that Bunker Hill? I know all about that.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a joke Simpsons name for like a rubbish college.
Well, obviously it's the place where the British were defeated, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know too much about my Revolutionary War history.
Yeah, what, you've not heard of the Battle of Bunker Hill?
I've not heard of the Battle of Bunker Hill.
Well, there you go. That's why I said I've heard of that place. But yeah. So anyway, it's kind of a cliche thing, that again that just works for this movie. Again, it's on the edge of believability. This guy is an old college roommate of Professor Lambeau, and they don't like each other that much. He is also a quote unquote underachiever, and he is from Southie as well, and he was a boy genius too. Was
Yes.
Sean Maguire. So he, can relate to Will, and he's the unlikely guy to help Will because he's the last person this professor thinks of, and he's got a complicated relationship with him as well. Again, very movie-esque, very movie-esque, and again a bit cliche as well. Yes.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I came up with a phrase so this is like it's the moviest movie that ever movied. It's like a good way of describing like this kind of film.
That's
where it's
great.
like everything about it. You just like.
Did you come up with that before we started talking?
No, I just thought of it just now.
Oh, right.
Like I was thinking to myself like, yeah, this is like it's basically just when you think of the idea of a movie and what you'd expect to see in a movie, this has a lot of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of like they go for like the kind of maverick who's and obviously Robin Williams famously like he's also in that like Patch Adams film which I haven't seen, but like where he like is a doctor but he's also a clown. Crazy. But yeah, like so like the whole unorthodox thing, you
Yes.
kind of get that impression from him. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, it's crazy, but it just might work.
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone might say that kind of line.
This would be too on the nose, but maybe Professor Lambeau's assistant would be like, well, that's it. No one will take him. And then he turns
and then he looks up, someone might.
You know what? There just might be someone.
Yeah.
Get me my car. Where are you going, sir? I'm going to Bunker Hill Community College. Well, that's not that's not Harvard or MIT. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Right. Anyway, unlike other therapists, Sean actually challenges Will's defense mechanisms. During the first session, Will insults Sean's deceased wife and Sean threatens him. So obviously when he's teaching at Bunker Hill, we see him wanting him teaching. He's saying, psychology relies on trust. Isn't that right? Yes. And so he has to get Will to trust him. Now, this is, I don't know if they meant to do this, but I found it interesting. Obviously, if somebody insulted Will, or one of his friends, like how Will insults Robin Williams like that in Southie, then what Robin Williams did, grabbing him by the neck, would be what Will or his friends would do instead of just sigh or brush it off or call him some rude words. They would get physical, And that move, I think, makes sense to Will. That is what he is used to. So that means, like, subconsciously he can trust him. And again, this guy doesn't seem like some weird academic alien, even though it wasn't like planned from Robin Williams. It seems unintentional, but it kind of seems like this could be why their relationship actually works, because Robin Williams is like that, and we see that in the first time they meet, he actually puts his hand on his neck, and maybe again just subconsciously that would draw Will back, because he's like, oh, I know this guy, like this is a guy which who isn't that different to me, who I can again relate to and therefore trust. I don't know, I just thought that maybe
I was kind of thinking that too. That basically it's like he meets him on his level and it actually works to his advantage in terms of forming a rapport, as he says.
I agree, and I don't know how again realistic that is in terms of real life psychology either. Yeah. I think it's fair to say also, like, I do wonder, like, if it's necessary, if it's kind of maybe a bit ridiculous to imply, like, these very, like, professional psychologists
would actually be completely incapable of like dealing with him.
Oh yeah, but that's
you know what I
again,
mean?
that's another hashtag
Yeah,
movie.
part of the movie thing. Yeah.
A movie plot device, a very movie-esque plot device. Yeah, again, which leads into them getting this, like you say, maverick. Robin Williams' character, though, Michael. Let's talk about him because obviously he also goes on a character arc. He's in a tough situation, of course, having lost his wife. You know, he is clearly depressed, and he uses his relationship with Will to get himself out of that hole. And I think his character again it's an interesting character in when you look at what Will is afraid of, because Will's afraid of taking a shot and failing. And that's the thing. He maybe looks at Robin Williams' life and it's like, oh well, that's what could happen. That's the warning signs. That's why I am keeping myself in this box. And so it's interesting that is the contrast in character that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon chose to put as the therapist. Not someone whose life has worked out, who can show Will like what a great life you can have if you quote unquote go for it, if you take your shot. But no, someone who took their shot and is now actually in some ways sadder for it. Yeah, but no, that's the thing. He says no, he's not sadder for it.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
He would still do it all again. Like his life, things have not worked out right now, but he is not a failure. It's okay to give life a shot because he would not regret it, because obviously he tells him about the times he spent with
the baseball game.
Yeah. Oh, well,
or the opposite.
That would be later. I was going to get onto, but I was just talking about the times he spent with his wife. He wouldn't trade it for anything. Obviously his character arc, which we kind of see off screen, because he says at the end of the movie he's going to go to India and China. He's going to give life another shot. He's going to put his cards on the table again, because obviously Will does throw some barbs back at Robin Williams. And does say that a couple of times, like, "Oh, you've given up. You're telling me to give it a shot. Well, you've packed it all up. You're not doing anything. You're just depressed right now. Why aren't you going to get remarried again?" But we just don't really see it.
He sees his life by the reins. No, yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does kind of a little bit out of nowhere.
Kind of happens off screen, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, I think if more attention was paid to that, perhaps you did a scene with just him, that would be better.
It kind of reminds me of the whole people who say teachers who are I learn more from my I learn from my students, just as much as they learn from me.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. That it does go down that path a bit. His performance, what a great performance, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not like a kind of atypical performance for Robin Williams. So, it's not really surprising that he did a good job of this, because it's, kind of a thing, you can imagine somebody like Robin Williams doing this. But no,
I would say up until he did that, could you?
I get you, because obviously he was usually just comedic, whereas in this one, I mean, I think I could, because obviously, I mean, so, he was in comedy films, but I feel like a lot of the comedy films he was in did have dramatic elements to it, obviously in Mrs. Doubtfire, he loses his kids, and I haven't seen Mrs. Doubtfire in a very long time. I'm pretty sure he does have some kind of so I feel that kind of comedies that have that kind of schmaltzy moment where the character has to be come to some kind of happy conclusion or climax. Yes. I feel like that's similar to the acting he was doing here, so I think it's not surprising to me. But so I would say it was kind of good casting, but I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, the flip side is he definitely could have been bad, and he wasn't. So yeah, I mean, well done.
Yeah, again, it is I think the perfect role for him.
Yeah, definitely.
That seems to be the case from what I can tell. And this is probably what he's remembered most for in terms of performances.
Yeah, he also did. I've not seen this film, but I don't know when. So the Dead Poets Society. Yes, I've not seen it, and I've heard of it, but obviously in that thing, he kind of assumes I wonder to what extent that's a similar film. I kind of wish I'd seen it.
That's a great movie. That's another great movie. I completely forgot about him in that movie. So yeah, he'd already. Yeah. That's. It's not really a sad movie. Or it kind of is. But yeah, he's this.
I know. They have the whole "Oh Captain, My Captain" thing.
Yeah, he's a great father figure, and I guess it's different because he is the life of the school. He's very energetic compared to the other teachers. He's not stale.
See, that's another one of his films where obviously in the Nostalgia Critic is considered very lame nowadays, but I do remember he has this thing about Robin Williams where he goes most unorthodox, and he really hams it up the fact that Robin Williams often plays characters who are unorthodox, and they do it differently.
I mean, he plays those characters very well,
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, so he does it well. Yeah, so it's fine.
Yeah, he was great in Dead Poets Society, which is another great movie. Anyway, so let's talk now about Skylar, the British manic pixie dream girl.
Yes.
But obviously she's intelligence, which we don't actually see, to be honest. There's no scene of her. She goes to Harvard, but yeah. there's no scene of her like being really smart, and Will finds that enjoyable. That he's talking to someone who's also really intelligent, and they're having an enjoyable discussion. Like you would assume that's what two smart people, that's what he'd get out of the relationship compared to other people who he's been with, perhaps. I'm not sure, but yeah, it just seems like she is the perfect woman for him. Like she goes to Harvard, and she is willing to be this guy from a different be with this guy from this different economic background.
Yeah, some might even say irreverent.
Some might say that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yeah. The thing is, like, so she is in this film. I found myself as I was watching the film thinking, I'm not really getting much out of this like kind of romance thing. Like, compared to, and I've seen some romance films before and been like, oh, I'm really invested. I think part of it is because there isn't really any conflict.
Exactly.
I mean, see,
yes.
like the thing is that there kind of is, like, obviously, but like I feel like when the conflict happens, it feels like it feels sort of, I guess, manufactured or like unnecessary.
Well, I mean, it's unnecessary because of who Will is as a character, the fact that he's damaged. But if he wasn't damaged, there would be no conflict. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And she really seems perfect for him. Like, she has no flaws, and that is why I said manic pixie dream girl, because she's like just this. You couldn't ask for a better. Considering who Will is, you can ask for a better person to date, So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. She's clearly just in there to show his development and give him something to like chase.
Yeah,
at the end, like this perfect girl. She doesn't really have that deep a character from what I can tell.
Yeah, like in a way, she's like his Princess Peach, but instead of giant evil turtles. It's emotional anguish that stands in his way. That's his Mario level. But yeah, she's his Princess Peach at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just an amorphous trophy.
I don't know why she is British either. I don't know why.
Yeah, that is very random.
Why did they made that casting choice? But hey, good for us, I guess.
I think maybe, okay, so I'll give like one reason. I think it could be the fact that obviously like you've got this contrast between, like, a lot of people say, for example, from Southie would like never go away from like where they live, whereas obviously Harvard is like, so it attracts academics from all over the world. So the fact she's British shows that like how, I guess, well traveled she is, and like how much her world contrasts with his much more insular world. There we go. Boom.
That's good.
By that logic, she should have been Chinese or something.
Yeah, she could have been Chinese. Yeah. Oh God, imagine what Matt Damon's friends would say about her.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of that, actually, we didn't acknowledge the fact that Robin Williams is racist in this film. So it's surprised he's not been cancelled with that dot not feather comment. Why? Where he says he's talking about Ramanujan. He says he's an Indian, dot not a feather. Which, of course, is a reference to the dots that Hindus have in contrast to the feathers that Native Americans have.
Is that racist, or is that just describing the differences?
I don't know. I feel like some people might think it's racist.
The issue is it's racist, I think, to refer to Native Americans as Indians, which, again, I've said is just the most stupid thing ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so...
And I feel like also maybe like I bet like a lot of Native Americans didn't wear like the feather headdresses. And like it's just one of those things.
Oh yeah, but I know, but that's what they're known for. Like,
Yeah.
It's not every Indian has a dot on their head, but some do.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah.
Anyway, so Will in therapy, Michael. Now, so this is the part of the movie where we get into Will being in therapy, and the rest of the movie, forget about his mathematical genius. That is kind of there here and there, but it's really pushed well to the side. It's all about Will, fixing Will Hunting, basically. That's what this movie should be titled from now on. Getting him better. He is this cocky kid who thinks, his life is fine as it is. Well, he doesn't really think that, but he's just he needs to stay put because he fears doing anything because he doesn't want to fail or whatever. So he doesn't think he needs therapy. Or at least that's what he says. And of course, Robin Williams gives him that speech at the park, which is a very good speech, right? And that
yes, the whole thing, like you don't know anything unless you experience it.
Yeah, exactly. Some good #movie dialogue there.
Yes,
some very good stuff. And yeah,
imagine if somebody started just talking to you like that in real life.
Yeah, I know. But, brings him down a few pegs. I think I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I hate it in because I follow a lot of sports, like sports people who like, or athletes, who think they know more about the game because they played it compared to someone who
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there is a difference between kind of, I guess, like understanding something on a kind of analytic,
Yeah. Again,
area.
it's why great managers often aren't great players.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also like actually how Adam Ragusa, your favorite YouTube chef, has a whole thing about how Marco Pierre White's like cooking videos are actually quite bad, and he often says lots of stuff wrong, and it's because obviously Marco Pierre White, first British chef to ever earn a Michelin star, clearly knows what he's doing, but like he just knows what works, and when it comes to like teaching people and explaining it, he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing then.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, so you can have these life experiences. So yeah, anyway, but that's an aside. I get what Robin Williams is trying to say. He understands deep down this guy is just even though he's so smart, so intelligent, he can see right through him and can see he's obviously just a kid who is scarred. And obviously he tells him he's not perfect, and that's fine. The girl isn't going to be perfect either, but that's fine. You can't be scared of intimacy, you can't be scared of rejection, and you can't just be content with sitting back and being a normal guy from Southie. If you can do more, which again he points out, because they have this. Well, what if Will just wants to be that? What if he just wants to be a bricklayer from Southie? Well, of course.
Yes.
Why was he a janitor in MIT? He points that out. Like, why was he solving these equations? Because he clearly wants to do that. He clearly wants to use his genius. So yeah.
I actually wanted to say, like the other thing which I thought it brought up was like an interesting thing is like, so I wrote like, is it okay to be a failure? But like the thing is, I thought it was like interesting when basically like to summarize like what Ben Affleck said, just because it's like related to whether or not Matt Damon should like take a shot. He basically says like, in effect, you shouldn't do it for yourself. You should do it for the billions of people who are in a rubbish situation that would give anything to have the opportunity you have. I thought that was kind of like an interesting idea to throw out there. Like basically, if you have an opportunity, then you kind of owe it to all the billions of people who would do anything for that opportunity to take it.
Because you owe it to us, like your friends. Like
so maybe it's people who know you personally.
Yeah, people who are people who you're friends with, because we
want to see you succeed.
Yeah, exactly. We want to see you succeed. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Williams obviously teaches him not to regret anything as well, and he's struck by Sean's story of how he met his wife, who died of cancer, by giving up his tickets to the historic Game 6 of the 1975 World Series.
Yes, and this felt very Boston-y, like the way they even had like the intercutting with like footage from, I don't know if it was the actual match or a recreated of it.
No, obviously that was the actual match. Yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is, so the Boston Red Sox, they had the
Red Sox.
They had this thing called the Curse of the Bambino, which who Babe Ruth is, right?
Yes, I do know Babe Ruth.
Yes, Babe Ruth. So you know what Bambino means?
Yeah, like a baby.
Yes, so the curse. So they gave up
because he's baby. Yeah, I got you.
They gave up Babe Ruth for cash, I believe, to the New York Yankees, like the greatest baseball player ever. They gave him to the Yankees for cash, and they.
So wait, hold on. Cash is a player, or are you saying they gave him up for money?
No, money. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, got you.
Money,
okay, yeah,
and that just doesn't happen in baseball because. You don't need to do that, and they hadn't won a World Series since doing that, when they just gave away the best player ever.
So why does baseball have all this money they're rolling in?
Sorry,
why does baseball have so much money that they don't need to ever sell players?
It's just the system how it's set up. There's no
well done then.
Yeah, there's no transfer fees. Yeah. So basically, the Red Sox hadn't won a World Series since, I don't know, like the 1920s, something like that, maybe earlier. So this is in like the 1970s. It's been 50 years. They didn't win that year, and in 1997 they still hadn't won a World Series. So since the 1920s. So, and maybe that 1975 game was the closest they got. So that's why it's remembered so fondly.
So Babe Ruth was around like the 20s.
Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of always assumed like he was, I knew he was like ages ago, but I was kind of thinking like 40s or 50s. Okay, yeah, so it was way back.
Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle.
Wait, so Joe DiMaggio was also so when
Joe DiMaggio was like the 40s, I think.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Lou Gehrig.
Yes.
Who invented Lou Gehrig's disease. And that's the thing, the Red Sox. So this movie, that would have hit so hard at the time in Boston, talking about that game, because again, they hadn't won a World Series since the 20s or whatever, and they won a World Series, I think, in 2004, the first time in like 80 years it must have been.
Yes.
So you can so when they're talking about that scene, that matters a lot, just to put it into context, and you can imagine.
And when did the Chicago Cubs win? That was like 2017. Yeah,
2018, 2016. It'd been like 100 years for them as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because 2016 was when all the crazy stuff happened. So yeah, of course that was when it happened.
Yes, and he basically says, Robin Williams, he does not regret his decision to not go to the game. He encourages Will to build a relationship with Skylar, though he lies to her about his past and his rundown neighborhood and all of his brothers and all of that. Yeah, again, it's part of the character arc. He's not there yet. So that's the thing. This part of the movie, again, I like this. The therapy sessions, of course, they're very engaging, and I think they bring out stuff in Will's character, and Robin Williams, does. I think the scenes are written well in terms of Robin Williams showing the flaws in Matt Damon's logic, or sorry, Will Hunting's logic. So Lambeau sets up a number of job interviews for Will, and of course you get the contrast between him and Robin Williams. Robin Williams just wants him to be happy. Lambeau wants him to be this mathematical genius. Again, I'd say that's kind of interesting, right? Yeah, but Will scorns them by sending Chucky as his chief negotiator. Skylar asks Will to move to California with her, but he refuses to and tells her he is an orphan and that his foster father physically abused him.
You know what's weird about this scene, which I couldn't help but think about? He has a very legitimate excuse not to go to California, which is that he's got an obligation to attend these therapy sessions and work with this guy, and if he doesn't, then he'll have to go to prison.
That's a good point.
But he doesn't even mention that.
That should have been a nitpick, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Should have been.
Well, again, it's the same. It's similar to last week. Childhood trauma, and this is proper childhood trauma. Not the divorce shit that Spielberg cares so much about. Oh, my parents got divorced. How about if one of them stabs you, Steven? How about that? Yeah, imagine if Steven Spielberg was stabbed when he was a kid. God, imagine the movies he would create off of that.
Yeah.
God, perish the thought. Yeah, but that's the thing. Obviously, again, he's got childhood trauma, so he can't move past these issues. He can't go to California. He can't get a job. When he shits on the NSA, that's good. I like that.
Yes, I do. Yes, that is a good scene.
Yeah, that's very good. I love that scene. Good stuff. But yeah. Again, Sean points out that Will is so adept at anticipating future failure in his interpersonal relationships that he deliberately sabotages them in order to avoid emotional pain. Yeah, there you go. That's I imagine that's not that unusual. It's pretty common.
Yeah. Yes, I think that too. Yeah, people talk about it all the time, like self-sabotage, because you don't want to be happy, because
because you're afraid of failure,
losing the happiness.
Yeah, you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of failure. That's the thing about this guy's character arc. It's not that. I don't know, like different. It's kind of It's a very standard thing for someone in therapy. I think this is like very common, I'd imagine, in therapy for people to have these issues, and you're trying to work past them, and you can't because of some stuff that's happened maybe in your childhood, perhaps fear of abandonment, and that's why he sticks with these guys who are loyal to him, because that's he needs that. So yeah, like that's the thing. I think the scenes are good, all of that, but at the end of the day, the character arc is just kind of like it's very predictable, which is what. I was thinking watching that, it's like, well, I mean, they go, again, there's a lot of good scenes, but they go over it time and time again. He's got a fear of rejection,
Yes, no, yeah, I'd agree, yeah. Like, it's basically, and also, like, I feel like, I don't know, like, in terms of his character development, there really isn't much in the way of kind of twists and turns, where, he's going, like...
Well, that's the twist, isn't it, when he lashes out after Skylar wants to move to California.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and that sets up, like, the third act, like, redemption, when... which you got to have again. Which you got to have that. The important conversation again is the conversation he had with Ben Affleck, where he says, the best part of the day is a brief moment where, he waits on his doorstep thinking Will has moved on to something greater. Yes, because I think it does again put into context that the friends, the ones he is closest to, want him to do something great with his life.
Yeah. Yes, that would make sense. Like, basically, I feel like there should have been maybe some more, I guess, like, substantial kind of impetus for his change, rather, like, like, some big moment that kind of,
It's kind of a big moment. It's kind of. Because, again, it doesn't really address the emotional trauma he experienced as a child as a reason. That's his, obstacle. That doesn't really address that. But it does, I guess, help him. Because, he's fine with abandoning his friends. Well, it's not abandoning, that's it. He's, like, being given permission to leave, and that's okay. So anyway, Will walks in on a heated argument between Sean and Lambeau over his potential. Again, a good disagreement. Lambeau, he just doesn't get Will. He doesn't realize Will is damaged, and he thinks Robin Williams is damaged. But Robin Williams knows that he's not damaged, and therefore
it's the whole damn system that's damaged.
Oh, because he knows he's not damaged. He knows how and why Will is damaged. You see. Yeah, you see, I hope you understand that. Did you get that?
No, yeah, I get you, yeah. Like, because he's undamaged in the same way. Oh, sorry, because, I get you, yeah. Because he's overcome it, he can see what Will is lacking.
Yeah. And Lambo just doesn't see the difference. So anyway, Sean and Will share and find out that they were both victims of child abuse. Again, that's the key. And Sean helps Will to see that he's a victim of his own inner demons and to accept that it is not his fault, causing him to break down in tears in Sean's arms. An iconic scene. I do wonder if this has ever worked in real life with victims of childhood trauma. You know,
It's not your fault.
yeah, just saying that over and over again because it seems relatively simple.
Yeah.
It seems, this like one trick that psychologists hate. Just
Yeah,
say
yeah.
to your friend who's experienced childhood trauma, it's not your fault, and that should fix it. I don't know. Seems like they've gotten like. I don't have a big knowledge of psychology, but it seems like they've gotten to the root of Will's problems. Right? They've gotten to the root.
Yeah.
He thinks it's his fault. He still remembers this time when he was a kid, and he hates it. But the thing is, surely it would take more time, more sessions to overcome that than just, oh, right, we've gotten to the root of your problem. We found what the real cause of your pain is, why you do the things that you do. Well, I guess you're fixed now. You know, does it feel like that? It kind of does. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of like, in a way, like I feel like an actual therapist would be like, okay, we're just getting started, you know? Like I feel like in a way, like a lot of the time, maybe in like kind of therapy scenes in films, they act as if
it's a quick fix.
like they act as if like kind of discovering what the problem is the breakthrough.
Yeah, just say the right line.
Yeah, it reminds me of in this great film called God's Not Dead, where the guy basically the whole time is thinking, why is this professor an atheist? Why? And eventually he says, when a 12-year-old boy has to watch his mother die from cancer, how can you believe in God? And we're like, oh, I see, it's because his mum died. You know, it's very similar to that.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a lot better than that, but again, it's a similar thing, which is a trope in movies. Like childhood trauma causes pain and causes an adult to behave a way in which they shouldn't. And this is the case here again. So Will, of course, because he's fixed now, because Robin Williams said it's not your fault like 7 times, so that does the trick. He accepts one of the job offers arranged by Lambo. And obviously Sean reconciles with Lambo and he decides to take a sabbatical, like we said. That's Robin Williams' character. Will's friends present him with a Chevrolet Nova for his 21st birthday so he can commute to work. But he doesn't do that, does he? He doesn't commute to work.
No.
He uses his...
He abandons them.
Yes, he uses this car to go to California. And again, so basically that's the key. He doesn't abandon them. He's been given this gift and... he uses, again, the car is maybe a symbol of the acceptance of his friends that, we would be happy if you left and did something with your life, you know. And so, off he goes. And Will sends Robin Williams a letter telling him to tell Lambo that he had to go see about a girl, revealing he passed on a job offer, and instead is heading to California. What a nice ending. And Robin Williams, by the way, he ad-libbed that, you know, when he says he stole my line.
Oh, what a hack.
Yeah.
Didn't even bother reading the script.
No, I recently saw an interview with Matt Damon. I think it was on GQ. I think it was where, you know, he goes through his movies. And he said that Robin Williams ad-libbed the line, and he was very happy when he did because he's like, that's going in the movie. So
that makes sense.
Again, it's a more predictable. It's a character arc, and you know, ending. I think compared to say Catch Me If You Can. You know, it ends in where you'd expect it to end, and the character arc is predictable, and it's just all the scenes that get you there are fun. But it's more emotional than last week. Again, those are part of those scenes.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah,
it's more dramatic, more intense.
Yeah. So do you want to conclude, Michael? You go first.
Yeah. Okay. The thing with this film, like I say, it is watchable, and like ultimately, I could easily sit down, I'd probably give it a few days because, like I need to get, but I could sit down again and watch it and be like, I'm not bored or anything like that. And like that's the thing. But in terms of, I guess, like intrigue, like, I can't believe, and like, where the film's going, all that kind of stuff, it's not really there. I think mainly for me, like the film, I would have had to have either one, been like a more kind of thematic exploration of something, or two, if it was going to go kind of down this like interpersonal conflict thing, I think having just the kind of relationship with the therapist is it's okay, but I think then you have the kind of romance which is a bit lackluster. I think maybe they should have just leaned into like it being about the challenges of this guy at university, and the issues he faces there, rather than it being so centered around the therapist thing, because ultimately, like I say, at that point it's entirely about this character development, which is pretty simplistic. He was abused as a kid. Yeah, I mean, we've already covered it. And that's the thing, the simplicity is, I think, the main thing that holds it back from being great. But it is emotional, and obviously I do really like Robin Williams. I think, I mean, I'm gonna give it a high 6. The highest I would give it would be a low 7, but I think I'm gonna give it a high 6.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, it's still good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's fair. I'm just gonna read a bit of Roger Ebert's review. He gave the film 3 out of 4, which is
Yes.
about where I gave mine. Yeah, 75.
Yeah, that makes sense.
exactly-
Yeah. Oh yeah, in fact, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
He said, writing that while the story is predictable, God, how many times have we used that word? It is
Yeah.
the individual moments, not the payoff, that make it so effective. That is
Yeah, that makes
that
sense.
is true. Yes, those individual moments, and I think that's what people like. Average moviegoers like out of movies. You know, I
Yes,
think
they like moments.
yeah, they like those individual moments. That's what again gets the views on YouTube. That's why people, casual people who like movies, not like us, that's why they like that's why they like movies, because of these powerful individual moments, because of great dialogue, great acting, emotional performances, which of course you all get in this movie. So yeah, 7.5 out of 10. A fine movie you can watch and enjoy, but nothing more than that. Anyway, Michael, what are we reviewing next week?
Next week we are reviewing Lawrence of Arabia, which is the 60th anniversary, and is also a Family Guy joke about Lawrence of Arabia.
Great.
And how it has a very wide screen.
We'll talk about that next week. Anyway, we've been selecting and reflecting on Good Will Hunting. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.